And I am here today as chair of this session. I am the director of the Agriculture Information Center, and also I serve as Planis ambassador, advocating for the transition to a world where knowledge is a shared public good. And it is my great honor to serve as chair for the session now. As we open this session on metadata standards, interoperability, and PIDs, I want us to think of these tools not as technical hurdles, but as instruments of equity. A standardized metadata schema ensures that a paper on sustainable agriculture published in Dhaka or Jakarta is just discoverable as anywhere in the world. So, we are here today to talk about the digital glue of our ecosystems, metadata, interoperability, and persistent identifiers. In recurring challenge, we can remove the paywalls to research, but if that research cannot be found, indexed, or connected globally, it remains invisible. Open access without interoperability is a bridge that leads to nowhere. To help us build that bridge, we have assembled a panel that connects the global, the regional, and the individual. Our discussion today brings together voices from key international organizations, infrastructure providers to explore the future of open access. Without any further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists. Speaker into introductions. Ima Subrata-Skoll, our first presenter is Ima Subrata-Skoll. Ima is the Senior Knowledge and Information Management Officer at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. She has been a leading force in promoting agricultural data standards and enhancing the visibility of research in the global south. And next, Lautaro Matas. We have Lautaro Matas, the Executive and Technical Director of LA Referencia. Lautaro is a key figure in the development of open science infrastructure across Latin America, focusing on the interoperability of institutional repositories. And she is representing Cordelia course from Crossref, and she is the Madhura American. So we also welcome her in this panel. And we have two panelists in online. I see Vinaka Kramer. We are also pleased to join here in online. Hello. And she is the executive director of the Barcelona Declaration on Open Research Information. She is a renowned advocate for openness in scholarly metadata and has been instrumental in shaping the transition toward open research information. And we have also one, no, maybe she's not joining, Ellen Tis. Anyway, if we don't know if she's joining, we will welcome her. Ellen Tis, she is supposed to joining us, and she is the senior director of Library and Information Services and Eastern Boards University and board member of ORCID, and also she was the IFLA chair. I think she is joining us soon. And now we'll start our first presentation, and I think Ima, you will start your presentation now. Oh, sorry, the rapporteurs, I should.
Okay. While Thank you. Can you hear me well? Okay, perfect. So while we are waiting for the slides, yeah, I'm going to focus on all the work that FAO is doing in promoting metadata standards and interoperability principles, particularly in anything that has to do with fair data. This is not mine. Mine is called Metadata Standards. And okay, I can, in any case, I have the presentation here, so I can start. So, right. I'm not sure how many of you, no, this is not mine. So I don't know how many of you know about Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations. Anybody knows about FAO in the room? Can you simply raise your hand, just for me to understand? Okay. So FAO is one of the specialized agencies in the UN, and is very much metadata. I don't see very well. Yes. Metadata standards, interoperability, and persistent identifier. Okay. It's called metadata standards, interoperability, and persistent identifiers. No, this is Lautaro. See, metadata standards, interoperability. I don't see because I don't have the right glasses. I'm afraid that it's not there because I sent the you don't have it there. I sent the I sent a
You just see over there. Rapporteur, you can advance this presentation.
Metadata standards, interoperability, persistent identity.
yes. Somebody, do you have it?
No, no. The list it is.
Okay. Doesn't matter. I'll send it now.
Okay,
I sent it to a gentleman that wasn't here. You can send it to. Yes. Yes.
okay, we have two rapporteurs. I just forget to tell their name. One is Brigade Skinner, Senior Policy Officer, Science Europe, and another is Dr. Kalia Banan, Senior Scientist, ICAR is Horticulture Research, Bengaluru. So I am requesting you two people to please note all these things down, and we have the recommendation session. After this discussion, we'll wrap up this session with the help of your notes. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. In the meantime, I go ahead. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. In the meantime, I go ahead. Well, not sure how much you know about the UN, but not all the UN headquarters in New York. Okay. There is a. Did you find the presentation? Okay, listen. In order to lose as much time as possible, not to lose, open the one for Lauretano, and I would give the floor to him. In the meantime,
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Change of plans. The last one, please. Yes. Okay, I am Lautaro Matas. I am the former executive and technical director of La Referencia. Since the beginning of the year, I am the the technical director. And I will present first, I will talk about, the point. Yeah, sorry. I will briefly introduce what La Referencia is. La Referencia is our Latin American plus Spain Open Science Network. It's a regional network formed more than 12 years ago by the governments by signing an agreement to work together towards, at that time, in open access and now recently on open science. So we operate as a shared regional and national platform by developing software, open software, to support the national and regional infrastructures on open science, mostly harvesting and enriching metadata from repositories and journals. Through the federated network, we built a federated network based on national nodes that harvest the institutional sources. And we apply interoperability standards and guidelines such as OpenAir and core vocabularies. So we aggregate and connect, and in that way we give visibility through national and regional portals and an OA PMH harvesting point for other global initiatives such as OpenAir, Core, and so on. So we have been developing different kinds of infrastructure components for our network, and in that way we also enable the discussion, not only technical, but on policies, and in order to agree and work together as countries. You need to remember that we don't have a European Commission, so or some bigger or regional structure for us to give us like an environment for discussing. So we created La Referencia, especially for the government to discuss on open science. So about the topic of today's workshop, I would like to introduce some elements of about the landscape or how we see the metadata and persistent identifier reality, at least in our region. So we have different studies about the metadata quality, especially regarding for using this metadata on advancing on research assessment. And we discovered that the quality, besides that we apply different guidelines and standards, is still, the quality is quite different and even between the different institutions and countries. So we have different levels of completeness and coverage on research outputs, but also on normalization on key dimensions for us. Such as, of course, persistent identifiers of researchers and persons, but also the coverage of persistent identifiers on identifying or the research results, such DOIs. So, for example, in our repository network, only 20% of the research outputs has DOIs. So, and it's similar in the Diamond Journal collections like Redalic and others. So, and this is because having DOIs implies some different kinds of resources for institutions, not only memberships or cost, but also in sometimes political even issues on even organizing the payment to an external provider in dollars, different kind of situation that we have in different institutions. So the coverage is slowly growing because the agencies are doing different kind of programs to support Latin America, but even though the coverage is not big. So we have a large collection of metadata, but we have a lot of research outputs that are not covered by that collection still, and we have inconsistency in the descriptions, and weekly identifier that are, so the challenge is not the absence of standards. We have standards to apply, but the structural conditions to implement high quality metadata and persistent identifiers at high scale. So we were working on these issues since La Referencia was created, and in the past years we started to develop a solution for persistent identifiers for our region. So we took ARC, Archival Resource Key. It's a well-known identifier that is used in other environments, and it's decentralized. And we implemented another layer of decentralization in order to provide the infrastructure for these ARCs as a public good for institutions, without the need of subscribing memberships or paying and relying on the national infrastructures of our countries in order to organize and govern the attribution, the minting of the ARCs. So we started to work on that, and the IVCT, the Brazilian Institute of Science and Technology Information in Brazil, supported by the EBICT itself, but also by the SCOS funding that we got thanks to La Referencia participation in the SCOS family. So we now have an implementation of the ARC working in Brazil, working for the national aggregator with thousands of records minted, ARC identifiers minted. And now, thanks to the new funding, I will talk about that in a moment, we are extending this DARC implementation to the other countries of our region. But it's important to say that DARC is not planned or designed to be a replacement of DOI. We always say that if they have the possibility to have DOI, it's a good idea to have a DOI on other persistent identifier. This is a complementary infrastructure in terms that we need to have a full coverage of our research output collections with a consistent persistent identifier. And in this way, by building a public good, an infrastructure that everyone can access without barriers, is the way for us to make it. And also the ARC, in this new development, we are designing the persistent layers, preservation layers, sorry, for the metadata, for the enriched metadata that we are working with this project. This new project is funded by the Invest in Open Infrastructure funding. We did the application last year, and we are one of the two initiatives in the world receiving funding, along with UbuntuNet in Africa. So we are working in this new infrastructure project that involves three main components. One is the focus on the metadata. In the coverage of our region, we will now going to cover the entire region, all the countries, not only the member countries of La Referencia. We're working on normalization and quality improvement regarding some dimensions that are important for research assessment, such disciplines and institution normalization, the kind of problem that we have when we try to use metadata for making measure indicators and that kind of things. So, and we also implemented a multilingual semantic discovery layer based on large language model technologies. This technology allows for you to search in more than 100 languages over our collection without the need of translations of the contents. So in this way, we will give visibility, and we allow users all around the world to query our collection. The component B is precisely the DARC implementation and extension to our region. And also we are focused on interoperability of the PID with other ecosystems. And the C is data repository, research data repository for the orphan institutions and researchers in our region. So in this way, we are expecting to improve the metadata quality and the persistent identification and the multilingual visibility of our scientific production in the region, and the long-term preservation, and of course, putting all this metadata, because this is a public good, available for all the people to use. And this is important in terms of the Barcelona Declaration also, to fulfilling. We are now signers of the Barcelona Declaration, so it's important to build this kind of infrastructure and share the metadata and the identifier for everyone able to use and make the indicators and use it. So we build this and we are keep working on this because our vision is that all the research outputs and their infrastructure that sustain open science should be considered public goods. And I know that non-commercial is implied, but it's always good to mention that needs to be non-commercial. So we can evolve. In fact, we think that from this principle, we need to evolve the open science infrastructure to be in the identifier agnostic, and it's something that we can discuss today about how to turn our all the tools and the way that we interact and we also communicate to the researchers that it's important to have different kind of identifiers, and the ecosystem should consider all of them. Ensure also the interoperability between the different kind of identifiers and systems and metadata standards. And we strongly believe that the way to do this is to make more decentralized and federated infrastructures sustained by the governments, and start to turn the funding from the commercial and private providers into open and public goods infrastructures. So, and we need to integrate all the sources and research outputs, no matter the region, language, or economic capacity. We need to give the possibility to the institutions to have good metadata standards and persistent identifiers. So it reflects the vision of La Referencia, and it's guiding this 3-year project that we are building. And of course, all the result of this project will be able for other regions to use. That is part, the technology transfer and the knowledge transfer from this project is also part of the project. So we are open to collaborate and to share the result of this project with other regions, especially the ones in the south. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and Lautara Matters. And it is very inspiring that your Latin America is now in action. You are doing the two things introduce, you see, and later we will discuss. I think we go for another presentation, and Emma, it's your turn now.
Can I stand up? Yeah, well, I will stand up a little bit because it's 20 hours of flying and so, and it's hard. So while we are waiting for the presentation, just to mention that was a good idea actually to move my presentation after Lauretano one, because my presentation is for an international organization and but disciplinary. So I'm going to talk about anything that has to do with agricultural sciences and related sciences covered by FAO, that goes from nutrition, fisheries, forestry, for many other topics that probably for you sound like it's not agriculture necessarily, because it's not agriculture, because we are covering way more than agriculture. Yes, Loredano, thank you so much. So, I already explained before what FAO is, and FAO is now 50 years that is working on semantics. So it's probably the institution in the UN that has understood very early the importance of disseminating the knowledge and science present in FAO members, so what would be the countries that are part of the UN structure, and how important was to provide the means to do so, so that the possibility that despite of the multilinguality that exists behind these, let's call it agricultural applied sciences to make it easy, there is a richness that is based on multilinguality, and there is a richness as well based on the fact that 50% of what is being published in our scientific framework is grey literature. So 50% is peer-reviewed, 50% more or less is grey literature. So for that, 50 years ago was set up something that is called FAO Agres. I'm pretty sure that our colleagues from ICAR know it because this is the reason essentially why they invited me to be here today. This was 50 years ago, and then 10 years after that, FAO understood that without what would be an identifier at semantic level, nothing could happen at multilingual level. So was set up what is called AgroVoc. AgroVoc is a multilingual vocabulary. It's about 1 million labels, 42,000 concepts covering all these sciences in, I think it's now 42 languages. But let's go one by one. Sorry. Yeah. So let's talk about the Global Knowledge Commons. As I said, the FAO mandate is to provide access to global access to food and agriculture knowledge. And for that, we operate with open, non-commercial infrastructures. Essentially, FAO has developed its own infrastructure to do so. It's a big one. At the moment, we receive up to 175 million requests a month. So it's really popular. 80% of that are humans, 20% of that are bots. So the key initiatives, as I mentioned, was FAO Agris, which is the discovery platform that is used to provide access to all these records that we are harvesting all over the world to provide access, and the multilingual covered control vocabulary. So let's go for Agris. Agris has about 16.5 million records that covers anything that has to do with science, traditional scientific outputs, essentially. Goes from articles to reports. Reports is something very important in our applied sciences. The content is in 258 languages, so we are covering a big bunch of languages, and thanks to, in a way, to AgroVoc, as I will show after that. It's a certified digital public good. Okay, and we are aligned with FAIR principles. We are not publishers. This is important to understand. We are aggregators. We are simply amplifying. We are FAO Agris is a catalyzer. We are providing or maximizing the access to all the efforts that our FAO member countries are doing to generate scientific outputs. So we are very much at the end of the scientific communication workflow. Echo. Clearly, metadata matters, and very much, because any effort that an institution, a publisher, is going to do to provide and to publish content on the web, if it's not well planned in terms of metadata, is going to be the most useless thing that you can ever done. And I will put some examples about how important is this for an aggregator to start with as FAO Agris, but goes beyond data, goes as well, for instance, Google Scholar, anything that you want to amplify the access to what you are publishing in your organization. So if you do so, as I said, you get invisible. And local and global South scholarship is at the moment underrepresented, even though it's very well represented in FAO Agris, because we are doing a very big effort for that, particularly during the last 3, 4 years in Latin America, now in Africa, and now we are coming to Asia. So in our view, metadata is the backbone of equitable, open, and sustainable open access infrastructures. This goes from, as I said, an OGS tool that is being used by publishers to publish content on the web, to a DSpace repository, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Sorry for that. It's I think it's the next one, this one, right? Okay, no, it's okay, today is not my luckiest day. I think that I have to point there. I can move myself into here. Okay, just if you want to move the slides, I think that you have to go back to a couple of them, maybe the other one, and the other one, no. No, so the next one, perfect. Okay, so we are not an institution that is developing metadata standards, by no way, no way. So we are not meant for doing so. We are not meant for preparing PICs or etc. We are reusing anything that people use. And we are trying to accommodate anything that is out there and put it in our system. So, for instance, if you want to contribute to FAO Agris, okay, no problem, you can do it using Dublin Core, DOJ, Agris AAP profile that is a kind of legacy data that is still being used. You can use EndNote, you can use mods. And today I had conversations about the fact that we would like to add Crossref, but we have some difficulties for doing that. We are defining a set of metadata that has to be there to make the records meaningful, so qualified metadata. And also we are much in favor of using subject indexing to make sure that you are defining the content of the documents that you are publishing on the web. We are ensuring consistency across the countries, which is pretty complicated, as you can imagine, but we are working on that, and we are quite okay with the 16.5 million records we have. Reusability, long-term preservation, etc., etc. Classics that you find everywhere, but very much focused on the science, the applied science I was mentioning before. Next, thank you. So, what PIDs are available in our community? Well, we are storing ORCID, even though we are not using it at the moment, because as the same that Lauretana was mentioning with DOIs, we are having the same issue with ORCID. Subjects, AgriVoc is very much used in our community, even though it's not necessary to use it. Even if you put cow, we can identify, we can match, we can map cow with the AgriVoc cow, so it's not a big deal if you are not using PIDs, and definitely DOIs, URLs, etc. We are very much promoting the use of persistent identifiers in our community. We are also understanding that there are some implications, some difficulties at software level. Sometimes people would like to do things, but they find some constraints in terms of the management in their infrastructures. Next. So, yes, as I mentioned, the benefits, definitely one of the most important one is disambiguation, which is exactly what Lauretano was focusing on. This is the big deal, the big problem of everything. We have managed to arrange that in front of all the difficulties that we are finding getting data from 2,065 data providers worldwide, but it's okay. And also we have critical for metrics without, commercial bias and responsible artificial intelligence applications that we are going to invest very soon in the FAO Agris. Next. So what is the situation in terms of, in trying to match what Lauretano was showing and what we have now in our FAO Agris? So we have not even 1 million records using ORCID. This is very little, so this means that quite a bunch of contributors in our network are simply not using them because we can harvest them. We can integrate it in our system even though we are not using it, but we decide to store it just in case we have more to show or to do some stuff with it. URIs gets better, but still we have not even 8.5 million records containing DOIs, and the handles are very little. So about 10 million bibliographic records contain URLs. This doesn't mean that there are no URLs. There is also a lack of understanding what means a persistent identifier in terms of link to full text or linked to the documents. People are putting sometimes in their metadata records things that are simply URLs, and they get broken quite easy, and we don't have any way to really match this with possible changes. So I think that in the terms of URIs, there is a lack of understanding of what exactly means and why they are important beyond to the identification itself as a first step for the end user, but machines. And then AgriVoc is getting much better because with AgriVoc we have a 40 years tradition behind, so people are using AgriVoc pretty well. Not necessarily having the URI, but it's not necessary. We do it afterwards. Next. AgriVoc. AgriVoc is a big tool. It's a linked data tool. We are linked to several vocabularies, not necessarily only agricultural sciences. We are also mapped to AgriVoc. I mean, many humanities, etc. Anything that can contain a word, a subject that belongs to agricultural sciences, we are linking to. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's 42 languages at the moment. Doesn't mean that all AgriVoc is accessible in all these languages. At the moment, it's translated to Swahili, English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and Russian. And it's very much used by humans and machines. So all the web services we have are bombed by the machines, which is very good, extremely good. That these elements on the web are using AgriVoc as a tool for them to maximize the richness in their systems. Next. So this is to illustrate the evolution of the records during the last 5 years, and also since we started to do lots of capacity development activities, the number of records with AgriVoc subjects have increased. So it's good. That means that capacity development is a must and needs to be done according to the audiences as well. We are not doing the same activities for Latin America or Central America and South America than in the north of Africa and the SADC region, etc., etc. So we are really customizing our capacity development activities based on the issues that each of these regions are dealing with. Next. Yes, so OAI-PMH. OAI-PMH at the moment is the protocol that most of the repositories and open journal systems are using, but is not well installed, is not well used, and people don't fully understand what OAI-PMH is meant for. And this is an issue. People install this space, and they think that once installing this space and putting an OAI-PMH layer, it's enough, and it's not. And this is an issue, because then there is no way for us to go there, as I will explain now, and to really get the data. So if you don't work, and by that I mean, if we don't take into consideration that people need to learn how to use these tools, we are simply promoting 100,000 million silos again. And so the dialogue between those that are generating this content, the repositories, and those that are trying to maximize the visibility of their systems needs to be done. We are trying to do so, but still, we need some support from those that are behind this. So, for instance, the sets. So probably not many of you know about OAI-PMH, but with OAI-PMH, you can define the sets that exist in your system. So people tend to put the sets in their local languages, or tend to put it based on type of document. There are many that they don't take into consideration, particularly when they are multidisciplinary, the subjects. So it means that we are excluded. Every time that we have a repository that is multidisciplinary from a university and doesn't take into consideration the sets based only in subjects, we're excluded. We cannot help. It's bad for them. For us, we try to do whatever we can. So the lack of persistent identifiers, this we already spoke, and the subject metadata. We have developed recommendations on how to be meaningful on the web through the link open data enabled bibliographic data. Is very well used in our community, but perhaps is something that needs to be considered to reuse in a way in order, or to think about using this concept of how I can be meaningful on the web, something a little bit more universal. And next. Yeah, so Diamond Open Access Journals is something that we like to promote very much because for us it's the best. So there are no barriers. Authors can publish without APCs. We get access without any kind of perfect. We are simply promoting as many as we can that are not predatory, or they are following the communication standard protocols in terms of quality, etc., etc. And what in return, what FAO Agris is doing is we are providing or maximizing their visibility without fees, global reach, as I mentioned, the statistics. So the FAO Agris is very much used for considering that it's a disciplinary repository, and we are providing lots of technical guidance, training, trying to have a dialogue with them, sometimes even trying to connect with people in our community that speak a language that is not in my team. So if nobody in my team speaks Arabic, so every time that we have to deal with an Arabic partner, we try to look for a person that can help us in providing this technical guidance, and usually we make it. And yes, in general terms, next. Yeah, so we are trying to support, so every time that we have a Diamond Open Access journal in our network, we are trying to even support them more because we know already that they are making a big effort to put all this content in that way on the web. So it's what I was mentioning before about helping them to understand a little bit more what it means if they install an an OGS software. So what they have to consider. So et cetera, et cetera. It would be it would be perfect if they get a guide before installing an OGS or something like that. Definitely yes. Because sometimes happens as well that those that install this software are not those that know about metadata. They are the IT components in the organization. So it's not always they manage to have a dialogue open in between. So to go beyond the simple installation that OGS is providing, yeah, you need to know about a little bit more about metadata. Next. And as mentioned, we are doing lots of capacity development. We are running webinars every here and then, outreach activities. We have periodical webinars at Metadata Matters, which is a kind of a standard in our community right now. And then I think that there is another session during the event that is going to touch this element about capacity development. Maybe a component in that session related to metadata would be good, considering that all the effort that Diamond Open Access are going to do have to be rewarded through the technical support that can be provided. Next, thank you. And yes, metadata, well, it's all a little bit repeating itself. So metadata standards enable equity, enables collaboration, enables accessibility, inclusion, global visibility. And this is what we are trying to support next. And that's it. So these are a couple of slides that remain that are giving you a kind of feel about the tools that we are publishing that are supporting next, and all the websites that we have in place to support all these activities in at least 6 languages, including Swahili. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's used. EPO is not only the telling only, they are building the so many infrastructure. We just saw the image presentation, and agriculture community must benefited from your research knowledge. So we will discuss, and we have another in person here for her presentation. I'm requesting you, Ms. Madhura.
Thank you so much. My name is Madhura Amdekar. I am a Community Engagement Manager at Crossref. I'm stepping in for Cora Korzech, who's the Director of Community and was at Crossref and was supposed to deliver this presentation, but she's a bit delayed today. She'll join us later this afternoon. So I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Crossref to discuss how Crossref metadata is and how it can support Diamond OA publishing. Next slide, please. So I want to start quickly by briefly introducing Crossref. Crossref is a not-for-profit organization that exists to make scholarly communications better. And we make research objects easy to find, cite, link, assess, and reuse. And how specifically do we do this? It's a combination of both the Crossref infrastructure and the efforts of our members. So organizations who publish scholarly content join Crossref and commit to its membership terms. As a member, they are given their own DOI prefix. They can use this prefix to create a unique DOI for all of their published content. And this DOI acts as both a locator and a container for metadata. And this is this rich metadata that's associated with each of those DOI records that are shared with the global scholarly community through Crossref's free APIs that can be used by the community. Open infrastructure also needs to be governed and sustained in a way that it serves the community for the long term. So this is why Crossref is an adopter of the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. By this, we mean that we have committed to uphold these principles that are listed on this slide as a set of guidelines for operating open infrastructure in service to the scholarly community. I also wanted to share this slide, which shows a diagram of our research nexus vision. This is our vision of a rich and reusable open network of relationships that connect research organization, people, things, and actions. It's a scholarly record that the global community can build on forever for the benefit of the society. So in this diagram, you can see that in the middle circle, it shows all the individual metadata records for individual things, people, and organizations. And around the edge are the circles that show the actions and relationships between these various elements. So how this metadata can be created, funded, used, responded, and the relationship between these metadata elements and the actions and the various actors in play. So this is the research nexus vision that we aspire to. Crossref is, it accepts all types of scholarly and professional records, and you can see them listed in this word cloud on this slide. Our schema is developed for all constituents of the scholarly communication, so be it journal articles, grants, thesis, reports, books, papers, and there are several of these content types that can be registered. And for each of these content types, there is different type of scholarly metadata that can be deposited as well. So what's scholarly metadata? Essentially, metadata is data about data. And when we talk about scholarly metadata, it's information about this published content. So some of this is really basic. For example, things like titles. What was the title of a manuscript or title of a journal, names of the authors, abstracts, and so on. That's very basic metadata. But you can also have additional metadata, for example, full text URLs for text mining or for similarity check. Relationship metadata is very key. It helps in linking different metadata components. For example, if articles are versions of each other or if they are translations of each other, relationships between data in a paper and that manuscript, references. There can be subject-specific metadata as well. For example, in certain biomedical journals, clinical trial data is important. Funding information is, again, another piece of important metadata. So, for example, award numbers, grant DOIs, and so on. And this rich metadata. That's what's really important for discoverability. And it also can act as trust signals. The more metadata there is available about a piece of content, the more information there is available for the research community to assess how trustworthy that research output is. And with all of this metadata, Crossref has been enriching the scholarly record by forging citation links between works based on the citation metadata there is, and this for over 20 years now. We have also matched funding metadata, provided missing relationship between research outputs and funding organizations, For almost a decade, we have also provided authors with the auto-update service that helps include their publications in ORCID records. Last year, we also started ingesting the first external source of data, which is the Retraction Watch database. This was being asserted with so this is being combined with publisher-provided metadata. And the results of all of these enrichment efforts are available in our API now. Thanks to this open metadata, we are now on the path to increase enrichment opportunities with mutual links between funding and works, preprints and journal articles, and this supports disambiguation of affiliations with ROR and builds on our experience in reference matching to make further improvements in support for greater discoverability of work. So essentially, the more metadata there is, that increases the chance of discoverability of your content through all of these pieces of information. In this slide, I just wanted to show an example of open access records in Crossref. So this shows how over a period of almost 20 years, the number of works with an open license has grown by a factor of 33.5. The works that are shown here, they cover only a subset of OA. Sometimes publisher-specific OA has ambiguous license data that covers all cases at once, and some works have no license at all. But I just wanted to show this slide to show some numbers. And Creative Commons license, as you can see, are by far the most popular. Most of the other open licenses here are either publisher-specific or specific governmental public domain licenses. So this is just an example of the open access records in Crossref. Now, all of this data, including the example that I showed before, it's really useful because it travels to thousands of downstream services. Systems, tools, as well as individual users are making use of our API, and this REST API is relied on by a big part of the research information community. We receive nearly 2 billion requests each month through our API. And so this diagram that I'm showing here shows some of the types of tools and organizations that use our metadata. So on the outside ring, it shows the types of tools and the organizations that are using the metadata. And in the inside ring, it shows the different ways that the metadata is being used. So our metadata is used by metrics and analytics tools such as Web of Science and Scopus. It's used by library discovery systems to find content that their researchers have access to. It's also used by members themselves to highlight the gaps in their metadata or check reference links. Organizations such as DOAJ make use of our metadata in their journal review process. So as you can see, it's how your content will be discoverable and also provides information to others about where in the scholarly ecosystem your content fits. So again, I want to emphasize here that the more metadata elements you're able to provide, the more likely it is that your content will appear in these systems. And so if you provide us with inaccurate metadata, the same is true, that these problems, that inaccurate metadata will also be then propagated to all of these downstream services. So the richer and more accurate metadata you can provide, it makes your content more discoverable. I wanted to emphasize that there are several levels of support in place to support participation with this infrastructure. We have several partnerships with other community organizations. For example, Crossref works with DOAJ in a variety of ways to encourage the dissemination and use of scholarly research, helping in building institutional capacity and sustainability around the world. We also have partnership with PKP to support research and more inclusive metadata. Our partnership is centered on development of tools that our shared community can rely upon, building capacity to enable richer metadata registration for organizations that use the Open Journal Systems platform. Crossref is a supporter of the Barcelona Declaration as well. We have around 50 ambassadors who are enthusiastic volunteers. They work within the global academic community in a variety of ways. We also are working with 134 sponsor organizations. So sometimes organizations are not able to join Crossref directly due to technical or financial barriers, in which case they can work with sponsors who provide administrative, billing, technical, and if applicable, sometimes language support as well to the members that they work with. Crossref also has the Global Equitable Membership or the GEM program, through which organizations that are located in the least economically advantaged countries in the world have their annual fee as well as the content registration fees waived off. So the technical barrier is minimized thanks to the pooling of resources, and we also have several helper tools available. There is a tool called the Participation Reports. It's an online visualization tool that allows members to look at how rich their metadata is. So you can basically enter your member name, and it shows you for a few key metadata elements how good is the coverage of that metadata. So what percentage of their records contains that metadata element. You can use that free tool to look at how good your metadata coverage is. You can also download a gap report which shows you exactly how much of your records are missing a certain metadata element. We also have a tool called the Metadata Manager. Again, this is a tool that helps you to register your content. And also, you can also look through the metadata records, search the metadata of journal articles, book standards, data sets, and more using any of these keywords. So you can enter a title, author, DOI, ORCID ID, and it can help you look for content that you're looking for. So several resources and helper tools are in place to support participation. I also wanted to consider what is the cost in the context of value. So the vision of Crossref is to include as much context about the scholarly record as possible. And this is through relationship metadata, because it makes it possible to help connect and offer reassurance about the content and also insights about the overall research enterprise. So with relationship metadata and the rich metadata, it's all connected and provides as much context about every piece of content that's a part of the scholarly record. Here are a couple of case studies of our members who, for whom joining Crossref has meant that rich metadata has increased the discoverability of their content. For example, here's a quote from an editor of the Pan-African Medical Journal who saw that submissions to their journal increased significantly. Their content was being discovered more, and this has brought visibility and credibility to their journal. Another example here of where the Universitas Islam Jakarta share their example of how better metadata has not only helped their journals in global visibility, it lets their research be seen, cited, and evaluated internationally. So I just wanted to share a couple of examples of where rich metadata has really helped organizations with the discoverability of their content. Another example is how institutions and funders can use the Crossref API to support reporting, evaluation, and assessment. So I mentioned earlier about the participation reports. So here is an example of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research using this participation report. So on the slide, you can also see an API query where basically this query is designed to find out how many open access works were published by one of the members. And here is the, if you substitute this with the member ID of this member in question, then you can see the number of works. As you can see here, it shows that from this API query, we can see that 6,342 have a CC by NCSA license, and so this is the result of the query here. If you use the API query, you can see this. Here are some examples of there are some errors here where instead of the actual license has been included instead of the open information. So it essentially shows that APIs can be used to extract this kind of information about any member organization and about their metadata. So we are here to find out about what infrastructure is important for Diamond OA publishing, because Crossref is committed to continue developing our metadata and network it accordingly to the needs of this community. We want to make sure we are encompassing all key actors and institutions in the research ecosystem. So I would really encourage you to think of what you would want to use the metadata for and who you want it to be useful for. So we are really keen to understand and hear from you what you think is important metadata for Diamond OA publishing, and because we would like to take it back to our metadata development team. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. there are different ways to stay connected. We are on Blue Sky, LinkedIn. We have the Crossref Community Forum where anybody can post their queries, continue the discussion, continue the conversation. Others can respond to these queries based on what they have experienced. So it's a very nice platform for information exchange. And here is Cora's email address as well in case you want to directly reach out to her with any questions. And that was my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. And we have another presentation, and virtually we welcome Bianca Kramer. Bianca is the Executive Director of the Barcelona Declaration on Open Research Information. She is a renowned advocate for openness in scholarly metadata and has been instrumental in shaping the transition toward open research information. So we welcome Bianca Kramer. Bianca, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you please start your presentation.
Yes. Can you see my presentation on the screen?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Yes, good morning. I'm very happy to be with you today in this session on metadata. Unfortunately, I was only able to join online, but I hope to contribute something strong in the perspective of the Barcelona Declaration on Open Research Information. And specifically, I want to focus on the importance of this metadata for standing open access. This will echo many topics already addressed by Ricardo, by Imma, and Adiro. So I'd like to just put those in context and hopefully also give you some additional examples that I hope will in your discussion later in the session. So when we talk about metadata, we're talking about different kinds of information. Bibliographic metadata, associated with journal articles and other textual outputs, but also metadata on other types of research outputs. Research software, research data. It's also about information about funding and grants, and information about research organizations and contributors. And why is this information important, including for standing open access? It's because this is the information that's used in decision making around strategic priorities, distribution of resources, and evaluation of researchers and institutions. It's also used to assess the effect of policies by funders, by institutions, by governments. For instance, policies on open access, open data, but also policies on funding distribution. And very importantly, it's also used for discovery. So it's used by researchers and private stakeholders to find and assess research results. Anytime you're using a search engine or a bibliographic database, you are using these metadata. So what does it mean in practice for research? It's really about where is information about your research outputs and activities located, and who around the world can find and use that information, and what kind of barriers do they encounter? Do they encounter tables to be able to find that information? It's also about what types of output and insights are used in assessment and evaluation, and how open and transparent that research assessment and the information is based on. And finally, it's also about who owns and controls research information. So in this context, it's very important to have good visibility of standing open access in this ecosystem of research information. And I would like to stress that this is not just about being visible in Scopus and Web of Science. Rather, on the contrary, I would say that it's not about Scopus and Web of Science, but it's about the importance of an integrated, open research information system. So there's no dependence on proprietary databases that are selective, that exclude a lot of material, and that are also throwing up huge paywalls to be able to access them. To be able to have a more equitable open research information system, it's really important to have that be an open system. So just some examples around the world of initiatives and infrastructures that are contributing to this open system. First of all, we've got OJS, Open Journal Systems from PKP, that was already mentioned by Imma and others. that is being used around the world for many journals, including many diamond journals. Often these are not indexed in the large traditional bibliographic databases, but they are increasingly becoming included in more open systems like OpenAlex. Then a regional example from Latin America, where there is regional infrastructure for both publishing and for indexing of publications, including from repositories, as Lotaro showed in his presentation. And then my final example is an example from Africa. It's a collaboration with IFL to map diamond journals across the continent, including many diamond journals that are not included and have not been visible before, because, for instance, they're not yet included in DORJ. But it's really important to get a broader overview of diamond open access journals. So coming back to this importance of an integrated open research information system with good visibility of diamond open access journals, I think there are two aspects that are really important. Again, echoing what has been said. One of them is article identifiers, both DOIs, but also going beyond DOIs. And then again, also the value of the associated metadata. Because it's not just about having your article findable, it's also about information about the authors, about funders, about institutions. That network of information really enables all those uses that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And we know that there are well-known worldwide systems like Crossref, like DataCite for DOIs, like ORCID for authors, like ROAR for institutions and funders. And these really make it possible to build this worldwide network. And you've heard before, including from Maduro, about the options and also the accessibility of these infrastructures and the steps that are being taken to make them more accessible. But at the same time, there are also other systems in use. And it's really important, I think, to acknowledge that diversity and to accommodate that diversity. There's a really good blog post from last year, including by Lotaro, about the importance of not just being open, but also being diverse and inclusive, and thereby accommodating also other research information sources. And I wanted to briefly mention two examples. One of them is the Digital Objects Container Identifier, which is an initiative by the African PIT Alliance. What they're trying to do, or what they're doing, is developing a system where they accommodate different types of identifiers for different types of outputs and use a common metadata schema to really integrate them. And this is a way to not require DOIs for all research output, but combine DOIs with other types of identifiers, and thus really do justice to also local contexts and really enable interoperability. And the second example is, again, Lotaro's example of La Referencia and the work they're doing on improving the interoperability both of their ARC identifiers and the associated metadata. I now want to put a focus a little bit and a spotlight on metadata in journals from India that are using Open Journal System from PKP to show some evidence about how how good that metadata is. And when you look again at Open Journal Systems, PKP shares a large data set with information about all the journals that they know of that use Open Journal Systems. And you can see the numbers of the journals across the world. And specifically, when you zoom in on India, there are currently almost 2,000 current journals from India using OJS. Of these, there are over 1,400 that use ISSNs, making it possible to really link them with information about these journals in other systems. Again, one of the benefits of using identifiers. And of these, there are a little over 1,000 that use Crossref, that have current Crossref DOIs. I just want to compare that for a second to DORJ, which has currently 423 journals from India. So it shows that there's a large number of journals also currently outside DORJ. And it says something about capacity. Maybe we can have a whole discussion about that, but it's important to also realize that there are also a broader set of journals. For those journals that use Crossref DOIs, because Crossref is an open infrastructure, it's possible to get structured information about the metadata in Crossref from those journals. And that's now shown on the right. It's a bit of a complicated graph, but basically what it shows is for a number of metadata elements, which you see on the bottom, for abstracts, affiliations, references, funding, ORCIDs, and licenses, the percentage proportion of the journals that have that metadata. And you can see that, for instance, for abstracts, a large proportion of journals indeed supply abstracts to Crossref, which is of course very important for discovery. For other types of metadata, more journals, that percentage is lower, but you can see for each element of metadata, there are journals that actually supply this information. And we also know that it is possible through open journal systems, but it really depends on the version that you have installed and also the optimal use that you make of the functionalities in open journal systems. This was also mentioned already earlier. So on one hand, it shows that it is indeed possible, but also that there's a large variety to the extent to which journals and publishers actually make use of these options to supply that information. And again, I would like to reiterate the importance of making that information available to be able to integrate it with other systems and to have your journals be more visible. So I'd like to end with with a summary of what I've been saying, but I think it also echoes what other people have been saying in this session. And that is to stress the importance of BITS and open metadata for the usage of research information, for the visibility of your journals, for the inclusion of your journals in open systems of research information, and thereby also increasing their discoverability and inclusion in evaluation and assessment without being dependent on closed selective proprietary databases. We talked about the benefits of both centralized systems, but also of decentralized systems, and therefore really the importance of interoperability, connecting metadata across systems. And that also touches on the point of capacity building. It requires capacity building both at the level of individual publishers, where they differ very much about the extent of the metadata they supply, but also at system level to really enable that interconnection. And that's where I'd like to end, coming back to the Barcelona Declaration on open research information that really asks all the players, so the universities, funders, to work together with data suppliers, with publishers, with infrastructure systems to really make open research information work. And one of the important commitments in the Barcelona Declaration is collective action to accelerate that transition. So I think this ties in nicely, I hope, to also the next part of this session, where you will come together discuss what can be done, what are the priorities, and how can we make this open research information a reality. I would like to leave it at this and give it back to the panel chair.
Thank you very much, Bianca, for nicely presenting, and we hope you will be there for some time so that we have some discussion session after a short coffee break. So till then, you will be with us, I hope, and I believe.
Yes.
Thank you very
yes,
much.
I will be here for the whole
And
session.
dear participants, now we have a short or small coffee break. So I'm requesting you to please join back within 15 minutes so that we can wrap up our session with open discussion sessions or a group discussion, table group discussion. Thank you. Welcome back. I guess still our participants are for rushing for coffee. So as we are behind the time, so we have some discussion session now, and now floor is open. Before this, I have one opening questions for our panelists. That we see the most metadata and PID infrastructures are designed for the commercial or business models. So for Diamond Open Access, which is non-commercial, where do these systems create the biggest barriers to equity today? So, and now floor is open, and you people please introduce yourself first and then ask questions, suggestions, or making any sense or comments, please. Any volunteers here so that they can, or I can do it? Okay. Okay, please.
I'm happy to stand up for a minute.
No, yes, yes.
Hello everyone, I'm Brecht Staan and I'm, you might see me take notes because I'm the rapporteur for this session. I think those were excellent presentations and I just had one question. It's related to something that I saw on email slides, but it's more of a general question I think for the presenters and for the audience. You had sort of the usage data on some of the infrastructures, the platforms, and it sort of jumped up after 2023, I think. And obviously I'm going to ask about AI because it feels like that's sort of about the time that this was all launched. And we've heard more and more that sort of like these AI bots and all that put a huge strain on online platforms and just sort of like requests and all that. I don't have like sort of the expertise to make that into a very specific question, but are you seeing that like in your platforms and how as a community working on these metadata is basically sort of, you know, trying to make all of this happen and then suddenly you get this onslaught of AI bots. I'm sure this is maturing still, like how do you respond to this, but what is your thinking right now? Or is this something that you're seeing to start with? Thank you.
Thank you. I requesting our reporters to please make notes so that we can wrap up this. Maybe you are going to answer this.
Well, yes, we are seeing this at different levels. At repository levels, the AI bots and crawlers are stressing a lot of the institutional systems. Even for us as aggregator, we are also facing a lot of stress and increase in our transfer cost, the connection, you know, because we are increasing our infrastructure all the time in order to support this, and also we are blocking a lot of. It's not a desirable thing to block them, but because we want in certain way that there's part that's part of the discussion. We need to be there, for example, in our region, in order to balance the bias that exists in AI because of the sources of information. So we need to be part of the contents that fits the AI models. But at the same time, we are suffering that a lot. And even in our usage statistics metrics, we are having a hard time in order to even keep the bots out of the counting. And even this is stressing also our pipelines of where we calculate that metrics. And not only I have conversations with other big infrastructures, and their pipelines are also suffering because of that. So this is hitting us in different levels, and of course we are taking actions to deal with this. And there's a discussion group in COAR, the Confederation of Open Access Repositories, regarding AI bots and the policies and the things that we are planning as a repository networks. But I think that it should be present in different forums at different levels because it implies technical and policy decisions that we need to think together in order to address this problem.
Yeah, I have a dramatically different view. The increase that you saw from 2020 is due to COVID, because we moved from face-to-face capacity development to online training, and this had a big influence in the way that we could really create capacity. So the number of institutions that were in a position to submit data from 2020 to 2020 increased, as you saw the graphic. About the crawlers, the different, so it's probably is a kind of weird example. What we have prepared our infrastructure to deal with humans and machines in the way that we already had a conversation with crawlers already 4 years ago, telling them how they want to see our data. So this conversation ends up on the fact that in Agris, what we have is, in a way, a machine interface for bots, and we have a human interface. So the bots are excluded through Cloudflare to the human interface. So only humans can interact with us via the interface of our Agris, the homepage. In terms of bots, we are relying is on the sitemaps. So the URL that is being accessed by the bots through the sitemaps is different than the URLs that humans are using when they interact via browser with us. So this means that I can tell you that 80% of the traffic we have are humans and 20% are bots, because I can see from my statistics what is being done by crawlers, good crawlers, and what is being done by humans. Of course, what we are doing is to create a conversation with them because we need them. I want them to crawl Agris. I would rather prefer that they keep away the members in our network, because some of them don't have the infrastructure I have. So in a way that to say, okay guys, just leave those that are part of the network with very little resources, focus on us that we have the infrastructure to maintain your interaction. Plus, the point as well is that through Agris, we are enriching the metadata, so even for the crawlers are much better to come to Agris than rather going to the data providers themselves because of the multilingualism aspect. So, in practical terms, both things happen at the same time. So in 2020, we were already talking to Google Scholar and Google for years. We are partners. But then we created a little bit this strategy on how to deal with them. Good for them, good for us. Saving money for me. So FAO has a big traffic, but our infrastructure can cope with that. And good for them because they come once a month, boom, they get everything they need. They know that this is it, and they leave. So this is the reason why saying is a little bit different, the perspective, but more or less, I would, if I could, I would centralize the bots into Agris just to help our, as I said, our data providers to not to increase the resources and to be more cost efficient. But this is a dialogue I need to continue with other crawlers we have in the network.
Okay, and I guess, yes, sir, our big Planes advocate here. So, sir, please.
Yes, thank you. Johan Rurik, European Diamond Capacity Hub. What you say about the crawlers and the bots, that may be okay for a repository that they crawl and take it, but it's very difficult actually for a publisher. So, for instance, I'm the editor of a journal, Glossa, at the Open Library of Humanities, and the problem for a publisher is that the bots really completely throw out your usage data, because suddenly these articles that you simply know cannot have been read by so many people are suddenly read by thousands and thousands of users. And so you are thrown off by that as a publisher, because suddenly you don't know what your user base is anymore, and you can't control you can't control the chatbot other than by Cloudflare. And so it's really a problem, because you would like to let them in, indeed, because of course you want LLMs to be well informed. But at the same time you can, because you are messing up your user data, and that's also the problem that Lautaro, I think, is referring to. I had a different question, though, more of a policy question. You said that you said that you recommend the use of DOIs and the use of ORCIDs. And of course, I understand that as a UNESCO organization, you can't mandate things. I mean, you wish, right? I mean, I think. But how can we move there? How can we, as a global diamond open access, move toward no coincidence. Okay. So how can we move towards a situation where the use of these things in metadata is simply mandatory? I mean, and don't tell me that it is not possible. I mean, some countries have managed to do that. But Brazil, for instance, has a very good ORCID penetration, simply because a funder in Brazil decided to mandate it countrywide. And that's a big country. Yeah. So how do we convince our governments that, if you want open science, then it is simply a good idea to mandate ORCIDs, mandate RORs, mandate DOIs for all publications? How can we get there? Maybe Lautaro.
Yes. You may supplement or about policy.
Okay. First, one quick comment about bots. The problem is that not all the bots are following the sitemaps, robots, and so on. There's now, with the AI, also capabilities that a single user could have. We are seeing a lot of crawling from networks that are not, we can classify them like bad bots or bad networks, that we can negotiate with them because we don't know who they are. Moving to the next questions. The problem is that also it's restricted by the metadata standards, because what we have so far, we have this in FAO, and most of the metadata, for example, is in Dublin Core, and we are seeing that even what the users on the repositories are putting their ORCIDs, for example, the metadata standard, because it's plain, is sometimes there are different ways to put that, and not so. The metadata standard is part of the changes of the problem that you need to do in order to support that policy. Because you can mandate a repository to put the metadata, and we have many cases, but we have a lot of creative ways to put that. And part of our work now is how to normalize that and how to discover where the ORCIDs are, and the same for DOIs or wherever. So, of course, that, and moving to the policy part, the funders, the ones with the money, are the ones that need to address that problem. I think if you mandate something, like you need to, your result needs to be in given format, of course. But again, it's like a egg and the chicken. We need to develop the infrastructure in order to be able to give to the community the ways to fulfill the policies, but the policies need the infrastructure. That's why we are working on the infrastructure in order to move to ask for mandatory things.
Well, just to know that I'm not a UNESCO. I'm FAO. No, just to make sure, because FAO has mandates about exactly what you're saying. Our mandate is to give visibility, so we don't interact with the countries to say how they have to publish science. We simply say to them how to increase their visibility and maximize their. So this brings me into a completely different scene, and perhaps this is the reason why our approach is extremely pragmatic. So I give you the example of what we have been doing in Cuba. Cuba, there is a big work done in terms of publishing open access diamond or diamond open access models. They have quite a lot of infrastructures. So I had the same conversation some years ago, and they could do it at ministry level because they have a centralized way to, but we decided to work with them at publisher level. So it's the publisher that asks for things to the end users. Or, so they make mandatory certain things. Okay, give me an identifier, give me the subjects, then publishers do the work as they prefer. I'm talking about small publishers compared to European. Said that, I mentioned ORCID because it's the most known, but we are collecting any kind of persistent identifier used at national level for authors, and we are storing it. This is the biggest, simply this is the reason why I mention it. At the moment, we have not worked at how to show the ORCID or the persistent identifier of the author from our infrastructure. But in the way that we work is we don't care. Either you send me the ID from Japan, that is the one that is promoted by the Ministry of Science, or is ORCID. I get everything, and then in my infrastructure, I do the cooking stuff. But I need to map the identifiers. So if you decide to come to my network with a new persistent identifier for author that is used at national level, no problem. Just give me the identifier and give me where I have to resolve the identifier. We can work with that. So, but the difference between, so in FAO we are extremely, I would say the word is pragmatic. So this is that we are not pretending that people are going to do the things as we want because it's impossible for us. It's different than Referencia because they are working more on the top. We are really trying to sort out the problems that we are finding when people decide to publish content.
Okay, I think this table, they have some. The person here, morning, I see. He wanted to, he or you wanted to. Angola? Yeah, you may add some discussion. No? Okay. In this table? Anybody else you want to? Yeah, yes.
Can I make just one remark?
Hi. Yeah, thank you for can I? Yeah. Yeah. See, my question was one is about the the impact of AI, and that was partly I think answered. Another is that is pure technical, and other is the I thought of asking a non-technical. I mean to Ima. I think do you anticipate any challenge? By the the changes in global geopolitical equations, which is challenging even the role of UN. Yeah.
Changes in terms of providing the infrastructures that we are providing right now, you mean? Or so, because the question is very general. Yeah, of course, the UN is under pressure at the moment. That's clear. I think that everybody is aware of that. We are doing, though, a good job in making sure that the work that we do is preserved and we continue. And this is also the reason why I was saying that we are forced to be extremely pragmatic in terms of cost efficiency. And therefore, we are partnering, we are talking, we are having dialogues with those that can make our lives a little bit easier. But it's a period that is, nothing has to happen if you mean about infrastructure. I don't foresee anything. But indeed, As I tell you, no, I don't think that something can be dismissed if you go into that direction. Agris has been 50 years out there and has really gone through several crises out there, and it still is in there. So move from analog to digital, from digital to now artificial intelligence background. So it is coping with that.
Okay, thank you. I think our virtual Priyanka, she is waiting for adding some comments, or you want to?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I could comment on this, but I mostly wanted to also point out that Ellen has also joined the online meeting, so it might be nice to also have her on the panel and give her a bit of floor time.
Okay, you have some specific points to add regarding these discussions? Policy, how we can bring the policy people in our discussion.
Ellen, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, yes. Or
Yeah.
oh, Alan is also online.
Yes.
Yeah. Alan, can you hear us? Sorry, we missed you.
Yes,
Yeah. You
yes,
please
yes.
add your
That's right.
comments
You
now.
know,
Yeah, yes.
um,
Please.
well, good morning. And yes, yeah, I've joined you a little bit later, so I missed some of the discussion, but I have heard some of it now. At this point, in terms of your specific questions around policy, I may not want to comment on that now. And I just thought if there is an opportunity after you've discussed this point, then maybe I could just add a couple of things that I think comments that I would like to make, in particularly around the persistent identifiers, because I think all of that would definitely influence policy. But I'll just give me a minute or two. If there's anything else that's coming up, then I would like to give that input. Thanks.
Okay, Bianca, you wants to add some conclusion remarks so that we can wrap up with the rapporteur's comments. So
Yes.
yeah, please.
Maybe to add to that question about the effect of geopolitics. I think it's really important. There's a tendency to maybe the emphasis on knowledge security and to use that to sort of close down the drive to openness. So I think it's very important that as a community and as people involved in open research information, we keep making the case of why the openness is important to continue these collaborations and to continue the importance of interoperability and open information, especially in the times of the current political climate where there's more threat to that. So I just want to make that case.
Okay, you want to? Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to address what Bianca just said, because of course there is the current political climate maybe has a tendency to want to close down information, but I think we should use it in quite the opposite manner. It should underscore the importance of resilience of the systems. When you see, for instance, that even in the US, journal editors of medical journals are threatened, then you would want there to be a resilient system that can relocate these journals to another jurisdiction. The same is true for open data. I mean, we know that lots of open data centers and current data collection has been threatened by the Trump administration. There again, I mean, you would want those open data centers to be mirrored in other locations of the world. So, if anything, the current geopolitical situation pleads for a resilient, elastic system that allows for data to be relocated and mirrored, and journals and infrastructure for diamond open access journals to be mirrored and preserved in various locations, so that it can be relocated from places where the open access is under threat for various reasons.
Okay. We have our Bangladeshi colleagues, and he is working with Open University and doing education platform, open knowledge platform. So, Mr. Mustafa Ajad.
Thank you very much. What I understood that the open access journals, especially the diamond open access journals, got the supply side and demand side. So from the user point of view, user perspective, so what kind of policy we can take? Because if what I found in Bangladesh, the users, they even don't know. And when they create some resources by using these resources, actually these are not encouraged by institutionally. So is the policies or initiatives can be taken in collaboration with the governments or institutions, so that from the demand side of the resources, I mean from the user side, it can be promoted much further? Because if the users are not used to use these things, then the expansion of this journey or scaling of this journey will be kind of slow. So how can you promote that? Thank you very much.
Oh, another mic, you please. Bianca, you wants to say something, or we'll go with our rapporteur presentation?
Sure. I can very briefly say something. I see Ellen also had her hand up. I think one important aspect is coming back to the recognition, maybe. And one barrier that I see is the often that there's still a reliance of we want to publish in journals that are indexed in the commercial database like Scopus and Web of Science. So I think to create a more equal playing field and also make it more attractive to publish in diamond journals, it's important to move away from the reliance on those commercial databases and really consider a wider visibility of diamond open access journals, because that will also make it more attractive to publish in them. That's not completely an answer to the resource question, but I think it is about removing a barrier in the system towards uptake of diamond open access journals. Thank you.
Oh. Yes, if I could just add, certainly in terms of policy, as I indicated, I would like to add a couple of things that is critical, and one of that is in terms of also this can be done, of course, at the institutional, regional, or national level. And I'm sure, as the discussion had already indicated, that's why the importance of the metadata standards, and that policy should include that, it's particularly in terms of diamond open access, that it has to comply with these standards. And then secondly, in terms of the persistent identifiers. So I think it is critical and it is foundational for diamond open access to comply and to have that as part of their policy. And it's something that needs to start right at the beginning and not later on, because the future and the sustainability of diamond open access clearly depend on these standards that have been discussed. because not only will it make scholarship, it's the backbone of Diamond Open Access, making scholarship discoverable, ensure long-term access, enable credit and trust, and then, of course, most importantly, again, irrespective of geopolitics, it would support global interoperability and strengthen the non-commercial publishing ecosystem. And as Bianca had said now, one of the main issues of equity and inclusivity benefits, and particularly for countries in the global south, but also broader, is that the only way that we will be successful and move forward, not just with Diamond Open Access, but with open access, if we can reduce the dependency on the commercial publishing service. And that is the main issue. As long as we have to depend on the commercial publishing system, we are not going to move forward as successfully as we can. And therefore, this particular topic is critical in terms of standards and interoperability, as well as persistent identifiers, to make sure that Diamond Open Access can in future, maybe, who knows, become the default publishing system. Thanks.
Just to add something, I would suggest, so on the top of, she was mentioning about regional, national, is a disciplinary level. So here, for instance, and I'm very glad that I was invited in this summit. I was not invited before, FAO was not present, because lots of dynamics are at disciplinary level. So we are, for instance, providing a kind of excellence when open access, Diamond Open Access journals come to us. We are giving them a kind of sale, I don't know how to call it, a kind of stamp saying, okay, this is a journal where FAO is fine, it's something that gets published, even if it's, so in this is not commercial, because in many cases we are finding authors that they feel more comfortable with that. So this is a role of us, is to look at the quality or the standards that this Diamond Open Access journal is applying, and then if we are okay, we give support, and is at disciplinary level that can be done much easier at a multidisciplinary level.
As we are very limited in time, so now I'm handing my mic to the rapporteurs. So please quickly wrap up this session and.
Is this on? Yes, this is on.
Questions? But you have comment or questions? Or
Hey. So, Joe Haverman from Access to Perspectives and co-founder of Africa Archive. Thanks very much for the session. It's been really enlightening and also good to have heard about all the important things to be discussed. I just wanted to re-emphasize the importance and opportunity that we have with regional infrastructures that are already available in Latin America. We have La Referencia, we have Claxo. The other room, Ariana was presenting online. In Africa, we have Cielo, well, also Latin American originally, but there's also Cielo. We have AJAL, Africa Archive. We have Wakren is doing a lot of open science facilitation. Asia, and then of course Europe. So I feel like if we, now that we discuss a lot what's being imposed from Western countries so much and also facilitated, there's a lot of opportunity to look inwards on a regional level and strengthen the regional ecosystem, primarily I would say, in this new era, and also with the opportunities and facilitations that we have now thanks to the Global Open Science Summit networking opportunities. And then with the learnings that we've had over the past decades by now and the persistent challenges that we keep discussing, to find regional solutions and then optimize the system at a global level. You know where I'm going with this. And I know we all want this, but I feel like sometimes we get stuck in the problem focus and can't see anymore the opportunities and the infrastructure that we already have, and using the opportunity that's now given with the actual conference and people meeting each other to follow up and actually follow through with the follow-ups to partner, to strengthen the infrastructure on the regional levels and to move things forward the way we want. I say that as a European, but yeah. So, and also like not to see other organizations as the enemies and whatever, but rather as facilitators. And it's up to us how much facilitation we want to get from either party and how much we can provide ourselves. So sometimes we feel trapped, and that's also historically grown and oftentimes real, but then there's always opportunities and alternatives on the table. It's just a matter of having the capacity to see them and to actionize them. Yeah, just a word of encouragement, preaching to myself first. Thank you.
Do I? If there are no more questions. No, no more questions. Well, I'm sure I can wrap it up. Well, so hi again, I'm Brecht Sanen. I've been reporting together with my colleague here on the session, and it's been a fantastic session, I think. Obviously, I'll just take a minute to thank the presenters, especially both in person and online, and the audience for their questions as well. I mean, look, this is a workshop which I think a lot of people come in on and saying, okay, this is going to be a very technical discussion. You know, we're talking metadata, we're talking interoperability, persistent identifiers. These can be very technical discussions. I don't think this workshop has been that. We've had a lot of, I think, great insights into the initiatives that are sort of very detailed, very technical. But I think what I got from this workshop is that there was a real emphasis, and I really appreciated that throughout the presentations, throughout the questions, is this is about something. This is not just we're building technical platforms and all that, we're having very technical discussion. No, this is about something. This matters. This is relevant to the Diamond Open Access community. That's our way into these topics here, but also open access in general, and also for the good of society. This is all for something. This is important. This is very valuable to have these discussions at these global summits and elsewhere because they matter well beyond this. I think that is sort of my, just since I've sort of been asked, like, what are you taking from this? This is what I'm taking from this. And I'm really happy that we had this discussion already on the first day, because I'm sure as we sort of go on into this global summit, we can pick up during the plenary sessions, during the coffee breaks, during lunches, dinners, that we can sort of continue these conversations that we started here and also in the other room, because there's a other workshop going on there. So, but that is my main takeaway, is that all these initiatives, and again, thank you to the presenters, these really matter. They're built on something, they have a clear goal. And here at the Global Summit, we have an opportunity now to discuss that much more broadly, mature further, like how are we presenting this? One thing, one small thing I'm going to take out is, like, it was mentioned, the current geopolitical challenges. Again, there was so the immediate focus on, well, yes, okay, that is challenging right now, but there is also an opportunity now to think about how all of this work actually is much more resilient than other systems and other models, and how we can present that to policymakers and to the community as a way forward. So again, thank you to everyone. This was great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before maybe our organizer they have some formalities, but before that I will conclude. Yeah. I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to the organizers for organizing such a very good workshops and very distinguished participants and the panelists and the good discussions, and the whole panelists and the audience here. And I want to conclude to say this Diamond Open Access is now not a niche. It is rather the very equitable path for global science, and we all should the responsibility to take this pride that we all are the platform, same platform that we make it forward in our own regional and global community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sushmita. Ladies and gentlemen, hope we all had a very fruitful discussion on this workshop about metadata standards, interoperability, and persistent identifiers for Diamond Open Access. I sincerely thank one and all here. And on behalf of organizers, I request all the convener and the speaker kindly come over here, like we have a as a token of appreciation, like we would like to felicitate you. Thank you.